Here's a story that's bubbling under the headlines, but it is very significant as far as global events. Of course, you and I are talking a lot about the U.S. and Iran and the conflict that's going on between the U.S. and Iran. And are we going to get together later this week? And are we going to try to bring this conflict to an end with an agreement between the U.S. and Iran? Meanwhile, over in Hungary, their longtime prime minister, Viktor Orban, was defeated. And that actually has implications for another conflict, the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Stephen Moore is a conservative political operative and a foreign policy expert who's currently based in Ukraine. And Stephen is on the Davison Family Dentistry Newsmaker line this morning. Stephen, welcome to WHO Radio. Good morning.
Great to be with you, my friend.
So, Stephen, tell me why the timing of this matters. There are implications, aren't there, for the war in Ukraine?
Yeah, so Viktor Orban has been standing in the way of any European aid for Ukraine. And what that means is that when the European Union votes to give aid or a loan to Ukraine, Viktor Orban votes against it, which they need unanimity. They need 100% vote in order to do this. And Orban has been standing in the way every time. And it's odd that J.D. Vance is over there campaigning for him because, as you know, President Trump and Vice President Vance and the Trump administration has been saying for a long time that Europe needs to step up. Europe needs to fight the war in its own backyard. This is true. This is factual. I live in Ukraine. I've been to the front 50 times, and Europe needs to step up. So Viktor Orban has been the block, the obstacle. He's been standing in the way of that. So this should bring additional funds, additional support to the Ukrainians.
Stephen, I appreciate you because, as you said, you've been to the front, you've been living in Ukraine. So is Ukraine, in fact, winning this war? And if Europe did step up and help them, could they ultimately beat the Russians? What do you think?
Well, you know, this is not something that's getting out in the United States. It's just not one of those stories people hear. And the truth is that this was supposed to be a 3-day special military operation by Putin. So on February 24th, he went into Ukraine, and the officers in the tanks brought their dress uniforms because they thought they were going to have a victory parade quickly. And as you know, that has not happened. They have been at this for more than 4 years. Putin has been he has been at it for 4 years. He has gained about 20% in total of Ukraine, and he's lost somewhere around 1.3 million soldiers. And you know, you and I are of a similar age where we remember the the Iraq War. And if George W. Bush had said in 2007, after being in Iraq for 4 years, that, hey, we've only taken 20% of the country and we've lost 1.3 million soldiers, who would view that as a victory?
Right on. Stephen Moore is a conservative political operator, and he's a foreign policy expert currently based in Ukraine. So, Stephen, let's game plan this out. Now, the Trump administration has been tentative at best in lending support to Ukraine. So if Europe gets involved, and that would really help Ukraine, what do you see as the U.S.'s role then going forward?
I think that, you know, Jeff, we are currently in a global war. And you look at Iran, you look at Ukraine, and those are two fronts on a global war. The Iranians, you've heard of these drones that are being launched into both Israel and Ukraine. They're called Shahed drones. They were designed by the Iranians, and they were sent to the Russians, and the Russians have been using them. They've launched 57,000 drone attacks in Ukraine, and so they've taken this information. They've modified these drones. They've made them faster. They've made them carry a heavier payload. They've given them a longer range, and they've given that back to the Iranians, and they're now using that against Israel. And you know, China's backing them up. North Korea's backing them up. There was at one point tens of thousands of North Korean soldiers in Ukraine. So America needs to focus on China, but they also need to put pressure on Vladimir Putin. This war could be over with more Ukrainian pressure militarily and more pressure diplomatically from the President of the United States.
But, Stephen, how does Putin save face? How could this come to an end? And he needs to save face in some way, doesn't he? He can't admit total defeat.
Yeah, a lot of people say that. I'm not really worried about Putin's ego, because here's what the mistake we're making about Putin. He's not going to stop what he's doing until someone makes him stop. And next up is the Baltic nations, Finland, Scandinavia, Poland. He is bent on being the next Peter the Great. He is bent on being, rebuilding the Soviet Union. And, he has already launched something like 57 drone attacks into 9 European countries, in various ways. And, again, Putin is not going to stop until someone makes him stop. And whether he saves face or not, maybe if he doesn't save face, that's, a way that Russia will stop being so aggressive.
It's really true. And Stephen Moore, who is a foreign policy expert currently based in Ukraine, doing an excellent job this morning of connecting the dots between the conflicts we're talking about here at the WHO Radio Morning News. Stephen, appreciate you. Thanks very much for the update this morning.